After my surgery, my husband's mother moved into our house and threw out all my medication. When I begged for help, she said, "Weak women don't deserve to live here." My husband just nodded. That night, as my vision blurred, I crawled to the kitchen and heard them whispering about my will. But then the doorbell rang, and I had surgery on a Tuesday. Nothing major, just something I'd put off too long, a small abdominal operation that needed a week or two of recovery. Mark, my husband, said he'd take care of me. He asked for time off work and even prepped some meals ahead of time. I thought, okay, we've got this. The first red flag came the day I got home. I was still groggy from anesthesia, lying on the couch with a blanket over me, when I heard a suitcase rolling on the tile floor. Then heels. Then a voice I hadn't heard in months. "Where's the guest towels?" It was Mark's mother, Joyce. She didn't even say hi. Just marched straight in, dropped her bag, and started acting like it was her house. Mark gave me this weird half-smile and said, "I thought it'd be good to have an extra pair of hands." He didn't ask me. He just did it. That first night, I was too tired to argue. The meds kept me foggy. I figured she'd stay a few days, maybe a week. I could survive that. The second day, I noticed the pain was getting worse. I reached for the bottle the doctor gave me, my post-op meds, but it was gone. I checked the bathroom, the nightstand, the kitchen counter. Nothing. Joyce was scrubbing the stove when I asked her. She didn't even look up. She said, "Those things make you lazy." I stood there, stunned. I said I needed them for the pain. She turned around and said this: "Pain is how the body grows. Weak women don't deserve to live here." She smiled after she said it, like it was some motivational quote, like I was supposed to thank her. Later that day, I found the empty bottle in the trash. Every pill gone. When I told Mark, he didn't say much, just kind of nodded and mumbled, "She's just old-fashioned." That's when I started to get scared. Day 4 was the worst. I could barely eat. My body was hot and cold at the same time. I had a headache that made it hard to keep my eyes open. My stitches were inflamed. I couldn't get comfortable, no matter how I sat or laid down. And I kept getting this pressure in my chest like something was sitting on me. That night, I tried to get up and get water, but my legs gave out halfway through the hall. I had to crawl. The lights in the kitchen were off. I heard them talking in the living room. "Joyce, the will's in the drawer next to her bed, right? You said she put it there." "Mark, yeah. She signed everything over. The house, the account. She didn't want to make it complicated." "Joyce, then just wait. Another day or two. No one will question it." I stopped breathing. They weren't even hiding it. They were waiting for me to die. Like it was a given. Like they were just passing time. I crawled to the fridge, pulled myself up with one arm. I don't know what I was looking for. Water? Help? I couldn't think straight. And then the doorbell rang. Twice. Joyce said, "Don't answer it." But Mark did. It was my sister, Katie. She wasn't supposed to be in town. She said she'd texted me 3 times with no reply and got worried. She looked past Mark and saw me on the kitchen floor, slumped against the fridge. I saw her face change. First confusion, then rage. She pushed past Mark, dropped to her knees beside me. "What the hell happened to you?" she whispered. I don't remember much after that. Just her yelling, Mark trying to calm her down, Joyce saying it was none of her business. Then Katie screaming, "I'm calling 911. I woke up in a hospital bed 2 days later. They said I was severely dehydrated, had signs of infection, and my vitals had dropped so low it could have been fatal if it went another 12 hours. The nurse asked who to call. I told her not my husband, not his mother. Please, just my sister. Katie picked me up from the hospital and took me home with her. I haven't seen Mark or Joyce since. But that's not where this ends. A week after I got out, Mark texted me. "Hope you're feeling better. Joyce says hi." That was it. No, sorry. "No, how are you?" Nothing. Just like it was a regular check-in. I started going through things. Passwords. Bank logins. Insurance papers. And that's when I found out Mark had refinanced our house, without telling me, 3 weeks before my surgery. Took out $60,000 in equity in just his name. The copy of my will?
Gone.
The drawer was empty when I checked. I haven't told anyone about that part yet. Not even Katie. Because I'm waiting. I need to be sure. I need the full picture before I make my next move. The hardest part of staying at Katie's wasn't the pain. It was pretending I wasn't angry all the time. I'd wake up in the guest room and just lie there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Mark's face. The way he looked at me that night when I told him about the missing pills. The way he didn't even flinch. He knew. He knew, and he was okay with it. Katie tried to get me to go to the police, but I wasn't ready. I didn't have proof. What could I say? My husband and his mother hoped I'd die? That doesn't get anyone arrested. That just gets you labeled emotional. Paranoid. A woman who just had surgery. So I waited. I made a fake email address and reset Mark's login to our joint bank account. The one I thought we shared. Turns out he'd moved half of our savings into a different account. One I never knew about. I tracked down the mortgage documents through the bank. He forged my signature. Not very well either. He'd gotten lazy. Then I checked the deed transfer. Same thing. A notary I'd never met. A date when I was supposedly present, but I was at a physical therapy appointment that day. Easy to prove. So I made copies. Printed everything. Dates, statements, screenshots. I didn't call a lawyer yet. Not yet. I wanted one more thing. So I asked Katie to drive me to the house while Mark was at work. I needed to see it. One last time. We pulled into the driveway, and my heart started pounding. It didn't even look like my home anymore. Joyce had repainted the front door. My flower pots were gone. The porch swing Mark gave me for our 3rd anniversary was missing. Katie waited in the car. I used my old key.
Still worked.
The inside was worse. Photos of me were gone. Everyone. Off the walls, off the fridge, even the little framed picture on the hallway table. Replaced with Joyce's dumb watercolor prints and some religious quote about a woman's place in the home. My clothes were boxed up in the guest room closet. Labeled. Donation. I stood there in the hallway, shaking. Then I heard a noise upstairs. Joyce's voice. Laughing. She was talking to someone. I froze, listening. Her. She's not coming back. She doesn't have the spine. Another voice. She'll lawyer up eventually. Her. Let her. All the paperwork's done. She's got no clue what's missing.
Missing?
I crept up 2 stairs. Then stopped. Joyce again. The folder's in the attic. If she finds it, we're screwed. That was all I needed. I left. Quiet. Careful. Heart pounding. When I got in the car, Katie looked at me. What happened? I didn't answer. I just stared at the house until it disappeared in the rearview mirror. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that word Joyce used. Folder. Not documents or files. Folder. Like something they were still hiding. Something they couldn't shred or fake. I waited 3 more days. Let the pain meds wear off, forced myself to eat, started walking on my own again. Katie kept asking what I was planning. I just told her. Almost there. I needed Mark to be gone, and I needed Joyce to be alone. So I texted Mark from a burner number and pretended to be someone from his bank. I told him there was an issue with the wire transfer from the refinance and asked him to come in person. I even gave him an address to a real branch 2 towns over. I knew he'd go. Mark hated anything that messed with his money. At 10:45 a.m. sharp, I watched him leave the house through binoculars from the corner store parking lot. 10 minutes later, Joyce left too, probably heading to her noon yoga class. She was still wearing those ugly white sneakers she always bragged were orthopedic chic. I had the spare key. I went in fast. Straight to the attic. We never used the attic much. Mark hated ladders. It was hot, dusty, full of old boxes. I climbed slowly, still sore, one hand on my stitches. I found the folder in less than 5 minutes. It was a blue plastic one with a rubber band around it, shoved behind an old lamp. Inside were 2 things that almost knocked the air out of me. One a medical directive form I never signed. It said if I became incapacitated, Mark had full rights to refuse treatment. It had my signature, but it wasn't mine. 2. A second will. Not mine. Dated a week after my surgery, naming Mark the sole inheritor of everything upon spousal death. Same forged signature. Witness line left blank. I took photos of every page. Then I put the folder back exactly how I found it. I walked out and locked the door behind me. Katie picked me up a block away. I showed her everything. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, "We're going to the police." But I shook my head. Not yet. She looked at me like I'd lost it. But I needed them to think they'd won. Just for a little longer. After I found that folder in the attic, I gave myself 1 week. 1 week to finish what they started. Katie begged me to go to the police. I told her I would, but I didn't. Not right away, because I wanted them to feel safe. I wanted Mark and Joyce to think I was gone for good, that I was weak, that their plan worked. I kept quiet. No calls.
No texts.
Not even to Mark. Then I filed the paperwork.
Fraud. Forgery.
Identity theft. I gave the state attorney everything. Signed affidavits, medical records, bank statements, the real will, and side-by-side copies of the forgeries. I filed a civil suit too. Quietly. Through an attorney who specialized in elder fraud. He'd seen worse, he said. But not by much. And then I waited. 2 weeks later, the police came to them. Joyce was arrested first. She screamed on the porch, waving her arms while neighbors watched. Claimed it was all a mistake. Claimed I was mentally unwell. Mark tried to play dumb.
Said he didn't know what she'd done.
But his name was on every document. The forged will, the fake signature, the bank transfer. All him. They froze our joint accounts.
Put a lien on the house.
Took his passport. Charged them both with attempted fraud, conspiracy, and forgery. The medical directive alone could have gotten them 5 years. Katie and I watched it on the news.
She cried.
I didn't. And you'd think that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. Because when the DA called and asked if I wanted to push for jail time, I said yes. And then I made a phone call of my own. I called Joyce's church. The one she bragged about every time she insulted someone. I sent them a copy of the report. And a few choice quotes from her police interview. She was dropped from every committee. Overnight. Then I called Mark's boss. Sent him the court documents. The notarized fraud complaint. The taped voicemail he left on our home line saying, "She'll be gone soon." They fired him the next day. I sold the house under court order.
Kept the money.
Mark tried to contest it. Tried to say he deserved something. I let him walk into court alone, no lawyer. He left owing me $38,000 in damages. Joyce took a plea deal. Community service. Probation. Mark refused the deal. Said he'd beat this. He didn't. The judge gave him 18 months. Katie and I opened a bottle of wine the day he reported to prison. And for the first time in years, I laughed without pain. But I'll say this. It wasn't perfect. I should have seen it sooner. All the signs were there. Mark always backed his mother. Always brushed off my pain. I made excuses for him. Thought loyalty meant staying. Even when it hurt. That was my mistake. And it nearly killed me. But here's the thing, I survived. They wanted me weak. Quiet.
Gone.
Instead, I took everything they tried to steal. And I watched them lose it all.